Hello everyone, welcome to the Buzz the Prey Manga. Today we continue the latest Global Freeze chapter, rewritten and edited by me in English for a smooth reading experience. All visuals and story flow are personally edited to give you the best manga style storytelling. Support the original creator by checking the official manga. So let's dive right into the today's chapter.
Chapter 2872 Exploring Experiments. Star Meng-chi thought about it, but could only shake his head helplessly. Just then, sensing their warship's landing, a large number of wild puppets suddenly rushed over from the heavenly realm. They have been watching this group of creatures ever since they came from the universe. Hulan snorted coldly. It's just a sealing ritual. What's so difficult about that? Watch me drag these bioweapons into the deepest hell. He raised his left hand, and a handful of golden metal material materialized from nothingness. The judgment will be made based on the quantity. A dazzling golden light surged forth from the golden figure, enveloping him and the attacking puppets. The next moment, they appeared under a starry sky, in an endless wilderness. On the black earth, two enormous gates, one black and one white, unfolded. All the wild puppets are restricted by the rules and cannot launch an attack. Hulan stared at them indifferently. The two sides of the screen show the difference in ability index between Hulan and those desolate puppets. Undoubtedly, these wild puppets, which have just awakened from their seals, have not absorbed enough energy from the outer world, so their ability index has not even reached 50,000 points at most. He directly opened the gates of purgatory, and countless evil spirits dragged him inside. In less than a second, Hulan finished sealing the several wild puppets. Isn't this much more efficient than theirs? Hulan said disdainfully. People nearby clapped their hands. As expected of the wolf god of the Oiler race, you are truly formidable. If Chaos were to encounter you, he would likely be utterly defeated. The speaker was Chong En, a powerful member of the Emerald Feather Clan. She originally wanted to praise Hulan, but Hulan's face immediately turned extremely ugly, because just before he left, he had been thoroughly beaten by Zhang Yi. He merely gave a cold snort, saying something that didn't reflect his true feelings. Of course. Manchi continued. Although this is dangerous, it is also an opportunity. Everyone wants the Star Clan's biotechnology, so let's do our best. The group didn't have a clear goal, so they could only use technology to conduct a large-scale search of the surrounding area and then find their own way. Even though all the races agreed to unite and cooperate with each other when they came, who doesn't have some ulterior motives? For this reason, unless they encounter danger and need help, they are unlikely to share truly useful information with each other. Hulan and the others chose a different direction from Zhang Yi and his group, and began to travel deeper into the experimental star below. However, less than 5 minutes later, Hulan's expression suddenly changed. Not good. A crimson gem suddenly exploded with a boom between his eyebrows. Endless flames surged forth like a torrent, rolling forward. Amidst the flames, one burning monster after another slowly rose to their feet. Monkey and the others were somewhat taken aback by this sudden turn of events. They initially had no idea what was going on. But when they saw clearly the wild puppets, which were engulfed in raging flames and resembled magma creatures, they understood. They actually broke through Hulan's hell seal. How could this be? Didn't you say your sealing technique was flawless? Manchi looked at Hulan. Hulan frowned and said, My seal is definitely not the problem. But these guys. The energy display instrument's readings are constantly increasing. 30,000 points, 40,000 points, and finally 50,000 points. These numerous wild puppets were sealed by Hulan in his most terrifying fiery purgatory. However, what Hulan didn't know was that just because Zhang Yi could do some things didn't mean that others could do them too. The wild puppet cannot absorb the energy of the netherworld, but that doesn't mean it can't absorb the energy from his purgatory. They have been burned to ashes and revived countless times in purgatory, each time becoming stronger. Until now, they have suddenly transformed into a group of fire tyrants with superpower indices exceeding 50,000 points. Roar! A powerful roar came from the mouth of a wild golem. The other wild puppets also responded, their roars shaking the earth, accompanied by endless rage. Although they can regenerate indefinitely, the pain of being burned to ashes still ignites their most intense ferocity. A group of fire tyrants charged fiercely towards Hulan and the others. "Damn it! Kill them!" Chong and shouted coldly. "Idiot, what are you doing? Stop hitting me." Manchi remained the most composed, pointing out the crux of the matter. "These guys get stronger the more we fight them, and they can even absorb energy. Let's get out of here first." He secretly regretted it at that moment. Previously, they had seen Zhang Yi and the others seal these desolate puppets too easily, and even thought they could do it too. Unexpectedly, Hulan's ability to seal one or two ends wouldn't pose a problem in the short term. However, the few wild puppets only needed to absorb enough of a seal to be full, and they broke free of the seal in less than 5 minutes. Meanwhile, on the other side, Zhang Yi and his group, Zhang Yi instructed Liu Karen to scan the surrounding area and explore the terrain. The result was that the signal in the entire area was being interfered with by a powerful magnetic field. Liu Karen said to Zhang Yi, "This planet is not completely dead. Even if it is partially destroyed, the powerful technology of the Min Star clan must have an artificial intelligence controlling the situation from a central point. We have now fallen into its domain, and will certainly be driven out by it." Zhang Yi said coldly, "It doesn't matter. The planet has already been destroyed by Bai Longzi and his group, so the defenses are probably almost completely destroyed. Just because Bai Longzi and his group look down on these technologies doesn't mean I look down on them too. Technological means cannot measure the surroundings, but Zhang Yi has the most primitive methods." He raised his right hand, and the sword in the tree swiftly extended from his palm. 1 becomes 4, 4 becomes 8, 8 becomes 6, and quickly transforms into tens of thousands of enormous vines. With Zhang Yi's current Black Knight-level spiritual strength, the body of the sword in the tree can grow into an enormous world tree. Using this method, it is possible to conduct physical surveys of the surrounding area. They quickly found the gap. Without any hesitation, Zhang Yisan headed straight down into the depths of the experimental star. "What are you planning to do? Search the entire planet like a headless fly?" Locke asked. "What's wrong with that?" Zhang Yi said calmly. Having the ability to travel through space, he wouldn't mind spending a few months traveling all over the planet. "If this is the last thing we have to do, it has to be you." Luo Qiao couldn't help but sigh. As they ventured deeper, they encountered more and more wild monsters along the way. However, the several had previous combat experience and were no longer flustered. They cooperated perfectly, stuffing all the desolate puppets into Zhang Yi's netherworld. Chapter 2873. Zhang Yi gathers 100,000 wild puppet masters, and their numbers are increasing. As she read on, Luo Qiao even managed to suppress a hint of worry and spoke up. "Can your space really seal so many wild puppets? I'm afraid they'll break through your seal, or rather, adapt to your seal." Zhang Yi simply smiled faintly. "Don't worry, I'm very strong." Many people have a misunderstanding about thinking that it is a manifestation of supernatural abilities. However, what they didn't know was that the superpower was not about creating an independent space, but about opening a door to the universe. Therefore, those desolate puppets that oppose the universe are not something Zhang Yi can control, but rather the dark side of the entire universe. Those wild puppets want to break free, unless they can devour the entire universe. Of course, that's just a possibility. However, the further they went, the more Arakanos they encountered. When the depth reaches 100 kilometers, the situation becomes completely different. Because of the appearance of the Aragway, a type of puppet, next to them, it seems that it has already adapted to the way the Aragway attacks. Instead of getting within a kilometer radius of Zhang Yi, they launched an energy barrage at him from a distance. Moreover, the reaction of the supernatural power index on the body of the attacking desolate puppet gradually increased from more than 30,000 points to more than 40,000 points, and even more than 10,000 points. "The pressure is increasing," Shunfeng said coldly. "This is a good thing." Zhang Yi laughed. "The greater the obstacles we encounter on our journey, the more correct our path is. The administrator of this experimental planet is preventing us from getting closer. Logically speaking, the management and control center of such a technologically advanced planet would likely be located in the central region of the planet to facilitate communication with other areas. Zhang Yi couldn't be sure about this, but he would prioritize going directly to the very center of planet. Across the entire technologically advanced planet, battles raged in various regions. Due to signal interference, communication between various organizations was almost completely interrupted. After Zhang Yi and his team broke through another blockade and landed in a deeper area, they were somewhat disoriented. Because after we crossed that isolation zone thousands of meters thick, what appeared before us was an enormous steel kingdom. If we were to describe it using the analogy of a city, it would only seem cramped. Above the vast expanse of the sky, towering metal buildings stand, stretching from the other side of the sky all the way to the end of this place. That's quite a generous gesture. Zhang Yi couldn't help but sigh. Luo Qiao swallowed hard. Don't be so quick to sigh. Take a look down and see what is. Zhang Yi glanced down at it. But then he saw the densely packed, endless rows of Araku standing on every road in the city, coldly raising their heads. Their eyes gleamed with a bloodshot light, a thirst for food, and they all looked up at them. So many? Zhang Yi's tone was slightly surprised. The intelligence system provides real-time statistics. Number of wild puppet detected, 106,821. More than 100,000 wild puppets. Although it is only the lowest level type 1 Aragu, if the monsters can be killed quickly and allowed to grow stronger, even Black Knight-level monsters will find it extremely troublesome. Such a massive number would be enough to completely overwhelm everyone present. Why do you look so calm? Luo Qiao couldn't help but ask Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi glanced at her indifferently. Calm down, okay? Can I cry instead? Run. 1 second Zhang Yi was indifferent. The next second he grabbed 2 people and opened the formless realm, quickly traveling into the distance.
Joke.
With over 100,000 wild puppets and their primitive fighting style, even if Shunfeng could kick one of them over, the rest of them would swarm and bite them to death. What's the difference between running away again and suicide? We've stirred up a hornet's nest. Luo Qiao shouted. Although they were inside the shadows, they only glanced back and saw the desolate puppets swarming into the sky like locusts, closely following behind them, which made them feel a chill run down their spines. This number is simply terrifying. Fatty Sue's face turned pale, and he gasped. It's unimaginable how many civilizations would be completely wiped out if these desolate golems appeared above the Earth's core. No wonder the Star Clan built such a large metal planet to create the wild puppets. Zhang Yi said through gritted teeth. With this number, it's likely that most of them survived after being annihilated by the 6 super races. If we had recklessly followed the White Dragon Princes back then, we probably would have suffered a massive defeat. The experimental satellite's central control system was also in a very helpless situation at this time. Because the number of the attacking allied forces of 10,000 races was simply too large, and they were all powerful individuals with an ability index of over 30,000 points, as well as experts with an ability index of over 60,000 points. If they ignore the entanglement of the Wild Puppet Kingdom and head straight for the central area of the Experimental Star Kingdom, there is a high probability that they will discover the core area and find the secrets left behind by the Star Clan. When that time comes, things will get really complicated. Although the number of Aragu was large, their speed was still faster than Zhang Yi's. Traverses the complex terrain. The only drawback is that we must walk along the passageways of this metallic planet and cannot cross the walls to pass through. After all, this building material has a natural resistance to supernatural abilities. When they arrived at an incredibly wide corridor, the countless wild golems behind them completely filled the corridor, which was dozens of meters long. They rushed forward, jostling each other like students after lunchtime in the cafeteria. Looks like we're among the first to arrive. Zhang Yi ran quickly, though he wasn't too panicked. These initial stages, without the devouring and evolution of the wild puppet, posed too great a threat to the original form. However, Once they are released and consume enough energy and matter, it will turn into a huge nightmare. Let's lure them all out and let their organization share some of the burden for us, Shenfeng said in a deep voice. Zhang Yi glanced at this quiet and reserved girl, never expecting her to have such thoughts. That's what I think too. Zhang Yi gave a cold laugh and quickly walked outwards along the path he had come from. Fortunately, with the sword hidden in the tree scouting ahead, we'll dart around like a headless fly. Several tens of minutes later, 3 flew out from inside the experimental star. Behind them, countless monastic puppets surged forth like a flood. Calculate the quantity of one. Zhang Yi gave the command to the intelligence system and quickly received detailed data. We encountered all the wild puppet in the core area earlier, and they all came after us. Chapter 2874, A Slip of the Tongue Leads to Disaster. Lu Karen spoke very quickly. This at least proves one thing. These desolate puppets are uncontrollable. After these desolate puppets are unsealed, even the control system left on this experimental planet cannot accurately issue commands to them. Otherwise, they wouldn't have sent the Arigaku to hunt us down. They would have left some to guard their main base. The answer is correct. Zhang Yi praised. If they were really that easy to control, there would be no need to seal them all away. But we're constantly being chased by them, and we don't have any way to move. Besides, wouldn't this just benefit their tribe? Luo Qiao expressed his thoughts. Zhang Yi chuckled. How could that be? We are a collective of all races. Of course, we should share the good times and the bad times. Finding your way inside the planet is difficult, but once you reach the surface, there are paths everywhere. Let's go. Let's start the train. Zhang Yi laughed heartily, turned his head and headed in any direction, opening up the boundless realm, and rushed off in all directions. In order to keep up with the footsteps of the bodies of the large number of behind them also began to mutate, transformed its body into a streamlined shape, becoming a ferocious beast with 8 legs and grew wings. They pushed the physical speeds to their limits. It even simulated Zhang Yi's trajectory in the eyes of some of the desolate puppets and entered the spatial attribute of travel ability. However, this clumsy imitation is far from achieving the spatial proficiency of a Black Knight. Even if it could traverse a kilometer in one go by folding space, it would be of no use in this pursuit. Boom! Zhang Yi led over 100,000 wild puppets, which began to race around the entire planet like a rapidly moving train. Meanwhile, on the experimental planet, various races are also searching for a way out. Everyone was like headless flies, groping around using the most primitive methods. Along the way, many people tried every means to avoid those desolate creatures. If you encounter a monster and can't avoid it, use methods to seal it away first. Even if it's just temporarily restraining them, it will at least buy them some time to escape. They've realized that as long as you don't mess with these wild puppets, at most they'll just be hostile towards you. Therefore, the best approach is to ignore them and find data about biological experiments on the experimental planet as soon as possible, or find a way to shut down the main switch that controls them. Only in this way can we continue to advance deeper into the Starry Sky Corridor. The combined forces of the Aura and Abyss tribes, after a fierce battle, finally shook off all the wild golems. They continued on their way, only to find that they didn't see as many wild golems as they did ahead. The kobold Hulan couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief and said, I thought this was the main base, and there would be a lot of those undead creatures here. But I haven't encountered many along the way. It seems they've all flown into space. The Azure Feather Clan's Chang'an couldn't help but say, Brother Wolf God, you'd better say less. Remember, loose lips sink ships. Hulan smiled dismissively. I'm the chosen one. How could I be so unlucky? As soon as Hulan finished speaking, everyone suddenly heard a violent tremor coming from a distance. They turned their heads and saw that everyone's face instantly turned black. Holy shit! Nobita immediately cursed. What could be more distressing than hundreds of thousands of wild puppets rushing in this direction? Zhang Yi deliberately lured those desolate puppets here. Of course, Najajiwai wouldn't admit it. The goal is to have the allied forces of all races help us share the burden of the fire. Whenever Lu encounters a person, he will rush over immediately. especially after seeing Hulan, who had previously made outrageous remarks, clearly in the group. He became even less polite. Zhang Yi, a cold smile playing on his lips, activated his spatial teleportation ability as he moved forward, shouting loudly, "Run! These guys are terrifying. Don't come any closer." Hulan was so angry that her dog face turned red. "Damn it! You still have the nerve to say that? You're the one who lured these guys here." "Oh dear, I can't help it. I'm just panicking and not knowing where to go." Zhang Yi explained anxiously, but inside, everyone was already overjoyed. Monkey and the others gritted their teeth. "The wind's blowing hard. Let's get out of here." Zhang Yi was fairly decent. Although he wanted to harm them, he didn't really want to kill them. After all, there wasn't any deep-seated hatred between them. So the demons simply led these hordes of puppets past them. Of course, some of the wild puppets hesitated for a moment before chasing after Hulan and the others. Immediately, the main force was divided into several waves. Even so, there were still hundreds of wild puppets. Mengqi, Hulan, and the others turned green with rage. "I just thought we could send the monsters deeper into the experimental planet to explore, but these few hundred wild puppets are enough to give them a hard time." Chong and of the Tsiyu tribe looked at Hulan and couldn't help but say, "Dude, you'd better keep quiet from now on. I've noticed you've been having a really bad run of luck lately. As the saying goes, you can't expect anything good to come out of a dog's mouth, and that's certainly true." Hulan's face was very sour. Fortunately, is covered in black fur, so you can't tell that its face is black. Zhang Yi continued running forward, circling the entire experimental planet. "We must ensure that every member of the allied forces of the myriad races who descends upon this land receives the benefits and shares in the happiness of this desolate land." Everyone was terrified by Zhang Yi's antics, and they all cursed him out in anger. But Zhang Yi would also feign innocence at this time. "I had no choice. I was being chased by them, and I ran into you by chance." At this time, the experimental satellite's signal was blocked, and they could not share information. So they didn't know that Zhang Yi had dragged everyone into the mire. Left with no other choice, they had to resort to various means to deal with the situation. After several periods of constant escape, Zhang Yi had fewer and fewer wild puppets around him. In the end, only a few thousand remained. These wild puppets have set their sights on Zhang Yi and seem to be obsessed with chasing him. Are they planning to devour the three of them alive? Seeing that the number of remaining was almost gone, Zhang Yi decided not to waste any more time with them. He turned around and faced the thousands of wild puppets. Then he raised his right hand, the Sword of Judgment and Eternity. Infinite Sword Domain. A vast spatial domain, extending outwards from the center. A towering sword light shot into the sky from his body, then piled up in layers around him. This eventually formed a huge dueling space shaped like the ancient Roman Colosseum. Chapter 2875 The Power of I Am What I Want. Seeing Zhang Yi pull all those desolate puppets into the alternate dimension, Shunfeng and Luo Qiao were both somewhat surprised. Is this guy crazy? He's trying to take on thousands of wild puppets all by himself. Can he handle it? Luo Qiao shrugged, a meaningful glint in his eyes. This guy seems calm and collected. He must have a backup plan. Shunfeng held his two enormous crab claws to his chest, offering no comment. Even if you are allies, you should allow each other to keep their secrets. Zhang Yi dragged all the desolate puppets into his own spatial domain. Of course, if he relied solely on himself, he wouldn't be able to drag all these desolate puppets into his netherworld. Even in the midst of constant battles, after he forcibly seals away hundreds of wild puppets, he himself may be overwhelmed by the other wild puppets adapting to his combat abilities, thus falling into a disadvantageous position. However, Zhang Yi has now found a way to deal with them. Xian, come out here for a moment. Zhang Yi summoned Yang Xinxin from the shadow space. The wild puppets tried to rush over and attack Zhang Yi. However, from the sky above, countless supernatural swords formed by the array of supernatural swords fell down with a whoosh sound, firmly binding their bodies to the spot. Yang Xinxin appeared beside Zhang Yi, completely covered by a women's demon armor. Brother, what do you want me to do? Do you want to see if my abilities will work on them? Even without Zhang Yi saying a word, Yang Xinxin already knew what he was planning. Zhang Yi couldn't help but snap his fingers. Smart. Ordinary methods are ineffective against these guys, but spatial abilities can somewhat seal them. So, I want to test whether these wild puppets have any adaptive ability to rule-based users. Okay. Without wasting words, Yang Xinxin directly summoned the fallen puppet. The judgment longbow was drawn to its full extent, and 3 sharp meme arrows were aimed at the 3-headed monster that was gnawing at the energy sword. With a whoosh, the arrow shot out. Without any obstruction, it shot directly into the center of the chest of the 3-headed wild puppet. The 3-headed golem froze instantly in place. Everyone kneel down. Yang Xinxin spread her 5 fingers and coldly gave them the command. Zhang Yi untied the bonds that had been placed on them. The 3-headed goblin no longer moved aggressively, but instead raised its head to look at Yang Xinxin and slowly knelt down on the ground. It's still effective, isn't it? Zhang Yi said, staring at them. Yang Xinxin said, but brother, look closely. They seem to be resisting. Upon closer inspection, Zhang Yi discovered that although their bodies were already lying prone on the ground, they were still struggling. The flesh and blood seemed to be twisting strangely, as if resisting this energy, or as if adapting to it. Can you even adapt to the rules and controls? I'm suddenly a little scared. Zhang Yi frowned and said, because he knew very well that Yang Xinxin's meme arrows could change the underlying code of this world. In other words, no matter who the other party is or what kind of material is in front of them, they can be given new meaning. The 3 desolate puppets are now considered Yang Xinxin's slaves. Even so, its instinct is still to resist. What does this tell us? This indicates that the ether content in these desolate puppets is far higher than that in Yang Xinxin. This is unreasonable. It doesn't align with our long-held understanding of superpowers. Zhang Yi frowned and said, there are only 2 ways to counter the power of the rule-based system. The first approach is to override the existing rules with more powerful ones. The second method is to forcibly break the rules using an alien energy that is far more powerful than the rule makers. But no matter how you look at it, these desolate puppets don't meet these 2 criteria. They showed no signs of any rule-based abilities, and the wild puppet's base ability index was only between 30,000 and 40,000 points. Therefore, all of this seemed extremely strange. Yang Xinxin's eyes also trembled violently. Everything before her was too bizarre. Her 24-core brain raced, eliminating all the impossibilities. Our understanding is absolutely correct. I asked Ling before, and she also told me that the control of the rules cannot be broken in a third way, so there must be something that we have overlooked. After eliminating all incorrect answers, the remaining possibility, however improbable, is absolutely correct. Yang Xinxin's mind was like a quantum computer, rapidly filtering and selecting all the information. In the final moments, she narrowed it down to the most absurd, yet also the closest to reality, possibility. This possibility, however, caused her usually calm and composed gaze, which seemed unmoved by anything, to suddenly become filled with shock. Could that be the case? It sounds incredible, but if that's really the case, everything makes sense. However, that would also make everything too terrifying. Zhang Yi looked at Yang Xinxin. What's wrong? Xian. What are you thinking about? Yang Xinxin didn't rush to answer Zhang Yi's question, but instead said, I need to conduct more verification. Brother, let's deal with all these wild puppets first. Zhang Yi shrugged. I thought you could control them. Yang Xinxin looked at Zhang Yi with a quiet gaze. Brother, don't mess with me. You never do things you're not sure about. Zhang Yi couldn't help but chuckle softly. As expected, nothing can be hidden from you. He gave a low shout. Come out, Li Changgong beast. As soon as he finished speaking, he pulled Li Changgong out of the shadows. Li Changgong was completely dumbfounded. Zhang Yi pointed to the desolate puppets and said, Li Changgong, go and wipe out all these desolate puppets. Li Changgong's face was full of question marks. He held up one finger and pointed to his own face.
I.
Zhang Yi kicked him directly, sending him hurtling towards the desolate puppets. Nonsense. Get to work. You have so many resources on you. Don't always stay in my shadow and enjoy the comfort. Li Changgong quickly rolled on the ground, then flipped himself up. The more than 1,000 wild puppets in front had already devoured Zhang Yi's supernatural longsword completely. After swallowing it, their physical strength becomes even greater. These creatures seem to eat almost anything. Their teeth and digestive system are biological marvels. Upon seeing Li Changgong before them, they roared and swarmed towards him like lightning. Li Changgong took a deep breath, his hands firmly gripping the 2 military knives at his waist. You really think highly of me, Your Majesty Chaos. But you have good taste.
Alright, that's it for today's chapter. Tell me in the comments which part you enjoyed the most. If you love manga style stories, don't forget to like the video and subscribe the Buzz Play Manga. See you in the next chapter with more surprises.